Good evening and welcome to Newsbite. I'm Andrew Turner and making the headlines this week. Press conference held on water shortage. St Helena remembers the fallen. Wine tasting event held at New Porteous House. And we have this week's sports roundup. The water shortage is continuing into its fourth month and resources are becoming seriously stretched. According to the St Helena Resilience Forum, consumption has decreased by 4.5%, but water stocks are still seriously low. The levels of water in the reservoirs have increased slightly because of recent rainfall, which has temporarily stabilised the situation. However, there is still no significant rainfall predicted. Legal restrictions on water use are now in force, which make it illegal to use water for anything other than cooking, drinking and personal washing. In light of the current water shortage, the Resilience Forum held a press conference on Wednesday to address questions from the public.
Connect was started 4 years ago, and if the directors had that time again, what would you have done differently to avoid the current situation?
We probably wouldn't have done a huge amount differently, to be honest. When we were formed, there was a project which was upgrading the water treatment works, and that was making sure that the water was sort of safe and well treated. That project was continued and concluded, so hopefully now people will see better quality water, and in addition, we haven't had a microbiological failure for a very, very long time now. So the water that's coming out of the water treatment works is safe and good quality. We move a focus. There was a focus when Connect was formed to move treated water out to the outlying districts, which has effectively gone on the back burner because we recognised that there was a water resource problem. So we've been focusing very much on sort of getting raw water into our systems, and if we hadn't done that, we'd been in a much worse state than we currently are. So we've focused on where the water's free flowing, actually capturing it properly. So there's new catchments have gone in. The Ladies' Bath Spring has been refurbished. The Fish Ponds Spring, Gents' Bath Spring, plenty of systems have gone in there. We've also now moved on and we've enlarged Harpers Street Reservoir, and we're building Hutsgate 2 Reservoir. So when it rains, there'll be plenty of place to put the water. But it's capturing, it's the prioritisation, it's capturing those early simple things to do first, and then moving on to the deep water exploration, which is what we're proposing to do next anyway.
Barry, can I very quickly ask, before we hand over to Stuart, how much water are we using per day island-wide?
We currently use, it's about 1,000 to 1,100 cubic metres.
1,100 cubic metres a day.
Okay. My next question really is related to the run, and this is, we had a lot of questions obviously on the run situation. So someone asked, the water flowing away from the Jamestown run, they're asking if that could be made available to the public via a standpipe for non-essential uses, like maybe washing their cars. What would be the possibility of using that water at some point?
At the moment, it is a possibility. I would agree to that. But I think with the restrictions, we place restrictions on all water usage in order for us to be able to access that water. We've mentioned about transfer systems from Sharks Valley and so forth. All these systems will take a while to introduce. So the one that we focus on now, and again it's based on priorities, is to pump water from Jamestown or from Chubb Spring all the way up to Scotts Mill. So again, the water that are currently flowing in the run will be cut off shortly because we will plug the gate that is leaking. The gate needs to be replaced, so it's not a simple process just to fix it. So that will again basically in a way nullify this option because again we haven't really focused on it because even with the bowsering we can't take all the water that is there now, but we will soon be able to reverse that process.
This is about desalination. There's been lots of talk about desalination. So will the powers that are responsible for providing water to the island's residents consider desalination as a redundancy to collecting runoff? The initial investment will be costly, but so is bowsering during water shortages. We have bowsered at least 2 years in the last 4, and as long as rainfall is minimised in future years, we will continue paying for bowsering.
Okay, I'll answer that. We definitely looked at and discussed that option, and obviously it is definitely viable. But long term, I'm just going to give you some figures. We are bartering at £3 cubic meter. I lived on Ascension, and life is heavily subsidised on Ascension by AIG. For the same amount of water, it costs £24.60. That's the reality of it. Like I said, we never run out of water on Ascension, but it is very, very expensive. So I think the other options were better at this point in time. It's not saying that we will never look at that option, but at this point in time, we are planning to use the other options before we go there.
Okay, so that figure that you quote, is that a cost that is a universal cost across all desalination options?
No, obviously St Helena would be different because we have a different population and so forth. I'm just quoting what it is there, but I'm pretty sure that it would be a lot more than barrels in water or capturing water. The cost of water would almost definitely go up.
So are you saying that it would be more on St Helena?
I'm saying that it would definitely be more than barrels-in water or capturing water. As well as they use reverse osmosis now. It's not something that you can leave dormant. I spoke to a gentleman who run the desal plant on Ascension for the last couple of decades, and he said the maximum time you can leave it dormant is 7 days. You would have to keep it running. So even though we had it sitting there for that event when we need to switch it on, we would still need to run it. So that cost would get added on to our capturing water costs. Yeah.
Okay. So if St Helena does run out of water, what do we do?
Well, I think firstly, from my understanding, if we cut our consumption and we successfully deliver the plan, then we shouldn't find ourselves in that position. We've already heard from the panel as a stepped approach, looking at how we can use our existing supplies, and again, looking at plans further on down the line. So again, I think at the moment the message is let's look at our consumption, let's get our plan delivered. There's lots of variables there. Obviously, we're waiting for a yes from our colleagues in London. There's obviously the rain issue and also the deliverability. So I think at the moment there's plans in place. The Resilience Forum is monitoring that on a daily basis. And again, as the situation changes, we'll react to it.
Yeah. Okay. So can we agree that St Helena will never be in a position where it will actually run out of water?
I think record shows that there are flows continuously. The records goes back to the 1800s. The water has been continuously running to waste, and that can be collected. So I don't think there's a possible chance of running out of water completely.
Armistice Day is celebrated on the 11th of November every year. It commemorates the signing of the armistice between the Allies and Germany at 11 a.m. on the 11th of November 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Remembrance services to mark this day are held on the second Sunday of November and are celebrated in many of the Commonwealth countries, including St Helena. The Remembrance Day service was held on Sunday the 13th at the Cenotaph. The get-togethers led the parade to the Cenotaph, followed by Pathfinders, the Police Service, the Scouts, Guides, Brownies, Cubs and Rainbows. At the cenotaph, contingents from the fire and sea rescue services stood alongside nurses, customs staff and members of the clergy in order to remember those who fell during World War I, World War II and all subsequent wars and conflicts.
Ladies and gentlemen, to you all, a very warm welcome.
The Bishop, Dr. Richard Fenwick, led the service through the opening prayers and handed over to the Governor, who conducted the remembering.
To honour those who have fought for our freedom through the wars of the last century and this century. We give thanks for them. We give thanks for all.
At 11 a.m, the last post was played and a 2-minute silence was observed. Wreaths were laid first by the Governor, then one on behalf of the President of the French Republic, the Royal Navy, the Army, the Royal Air Force, the RMS crew from the Falklands conflict, the St Helena Police Service and the Fire and Sea Rescue Services. Afterwards, members of the public were allowed to lay their wreaths in honour of those who fell. The wreath laying was followed by further hymns and prayers, and people offered each other the sign of peace. The ceremony concluded with a march past on the Grand Parade. Local company Rose and Crown held their third annual wine tasting event on Saturday the 12th of November at Porteous House. The event was a sellout with 150 tickets being sold for a night that involved a tasting of a wide range of wine that the Rose and Crown stock. Upon arrival, guests were greeted with a friendly smile from hostess Miss Tara Wortley and presented with a personal taste card which had a list of all available wine choices. Throughout the night, tasters were able to mark off the wines they had tried and make a note of the ones they would like to buy. Ticket holders were given a complimentary glass of either red or white wine. There were 3 tables, each one promoting a different range of wines, and this year a sparkle bar was introduced so guests could try some sparkling wines and Italian prosciutto. As everyone mingled and chatted away, light refreshments and canapes made by Timmy Young and various cheeses and crackers were brought around the room. There was also a draw for a bottle of Moet. Beverly Yon was the lucky winner of the bubbly. Hostess Tara Wortley told SAMS what the night was about.
Well, the Rose and Crown started hosting an annual wine tasting event from, well, this is our 3rd one now, and we just find it's a good opportunity to be able to promote our range of wines. This year we've launched a Prosecco wine, which seems to be very popular now. So it's an opportunity for some of our regular wine tasters to see what's new within our wine portfolio, and for, you know, some of our kind of potential customers who don't necessarily know what type of wines they like to sample and see what they prefer. So guests pay £5 for a ticket. On arrival they get a complimentary glass of wine, and then we have refreshments provided by Timmy Bishop, and just an opportunity to mingle and compare notes on what kind of wines they enjoy.
Here is Damien O'Bey with your latest sports news.
Rovers were the first team to book a berth in the final after they defeated Chop Shop Boys by 3-1 in the first semi-final fixture of the weekend. Rico Benjamin, Brian Sim and Tyler Benjamin struck goals for Rovers, while Clayton Yan fired in a consolation for Chop Shop Boys. The second semi-final was a much closer affair. Wolves and Hearts played 90 minutes without scoring a goal, sending the match into extra time. Hearts scored the only goal of the match early in the second period of extra time. Dean Phillips curled a corner kick directly into the net to send Hearts through to the final. Now, golf. On Saturday, 19 golfers turned up for the Stableford Turkey and Ham, sponsored by Jeffrey and Helena Stevens. Niall O'Keefe and Neil Joshua both returned 38 points to sit on top of the field. After a countback, Neil finished in first place and took away the turkey. Niall picked up the ham.
Well, that's all for this week. Be sure to tune in again next week for more of the island's top stories. I'm Andrew Turner, and thank you all for watching.